My name is Andrew. I am a rancher, a marksman, an outdoorsman, and a bladesmith. I've spent most of my life seeking adventure in one way or another, or in one place or another, and I would like to share all of that with you.
If for some reason you have a piece of steel at home and you really want to make something out of it, you have to find out, first of all, if you can even harden that steel. So there's a lot of things you might have at home. You could have something like an old circular saw blade. This one is actually not an old one, and this steel is not hardenable. But if you find yourself a good old rusty circular saw blade, it rusts. And that means that it is quite likely that you have yourself a piece of carbon steel, and we can test that really easily to see if it's hardenable, and I'll show you how.
So what we're going to do right here is test a few pieces of metal. So what's going to happen here, if you look at this first item here, we have a railroad spike. So I'm going to take it to the grinder belt here, and if you look at the sparks coming off of here, there's a few sparks. It's not that many at all. So actually what that tells us is that the carbon content in this is low. What I have next here is a piece of a leaf spring that I cut off a semi-truck. So we're going to take that to the grinder belt, and as you can see, there are a lot more sparks coming from this. This is a hardenable piece of steel with a higher carbon content. It's actually likely 1095 steel. This is 1084 steel right here. So that I would expect to be hardenable, but let's go ahead and give it a double check here. And as you can see, we have quite a bit of sparks coming off of that. Last piece is this one right here. We got an L-cut piece of steel right here. Not sure what it is, but let's check it out. And as you can see, there are like no sparks coming off of that.
So the next thing that we want to look for is not just the quantity of sparks that we see coming off of this metal, but the type of sparks as well. So you'll see coming off of here these big long trails, and at the end of those trails are these little explosions that kind of look like firecrackers. So when there's a high amount of carbon in steel, you can see this type of thing happen. So let's go and see what it looks like with this piece of metal right here that I got from a leaf spring off of a semi truck. Lots of sparks coming off of it for sure. And let's go ahead and zoom in a little bit farther to see what's going on. And you can see those trails pop like firecrackers, and that's indicative of carbon in that steel. Here is the 1084 steel, which we know is carbon steel, but let's double check just to be certain. And we can see the sparks coming off of it here initially. And it turns out that there is actually quite a few firecracker sparks coming off of there. This is definitely a high carbon steel. Yes, definitely a high carbon steel. Here is that piece of L steel. It's actually mild steel, and I know that, but let's go ahead and zoom in a little bit farther, and we can see that we have these long trails, but there is not a single firecracker spark.
If you're interested in seeing more, or if you'd like to see the knives that I've made, maybe it'll help with my reputation a little bit. What you can do is follow my Instagram, adventure_tactics with an X. It's the same as the name on my YouTube account. Please remember to like, follow, subscribe, and all that stuff that you're apparently supposed to do on the internet. And I'll see you on the next episode.